well, it's not hard, Brimsley, to go, well, he has beautiful brown hair, cut short, with a nice set of teeth, and a beautiful smile, and brown eyes, and
he's
cute. It wasn't hard, Brimsley, to say he's handsome as hell. You'll be very happy. Welcome back to Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
I'm Seff.
And today, of course, we bring you the first part in our Queen Charlotte breakdown, deep dive discussion, because we all knew this was coming, of course. I mean, we didn't really say anything online, I feel like, but...
No, we actually didn't. This is kind of like a surprise, I guess.
Well, because I don't know about you, but I've remained quite distant from this show for the most part.
No, I agree. That's the same thing with me too.
Like, there was, I knew I was gonna watch it, but I wasn't invested in the promotion or whatnot. Like, I haven't been checking the Bridgerton account on Twitter or anything for ever. Since Bridgerton season 2, basically. So maybe that's why we weren't really hyping this discussion, but it was always gonna happen, of course.
Even amongst us, I feel like all we did was really watch the trailer and saw the posters.
I don't think I've even watched the trailer.
Really?
I've seen the teaser that came before the trailer, but I don't think I ever actually sat down and watched the trailer. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, then I guess you did less than I did, because I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, what day is it coming out? Okay, May 4th, I'm ready for it. But other than that, like you said, I didn't really watch any promotional, interviews or, anything to hype me up about it. It was more so, it wasn't that because I wasn't excited about it. It was more so that I was just this is a new territory in the Bridgerton Julia Quinn world, so I'm we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, that, and I also think part of it might have been, at least on my end, of just not, still remaining unsure why this show exists. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to it, obviously, but there was always that, question in my mind of just,
why?
Why did they choose to do this? With there's so many characters that were introduced to in the series, characters that some of them exist in the books, some of them don't. And obviously there are so many spin-off series within the actual existing series as it is, that I was interesting choice.
And were your questions answered with this show? Did you find that?
We'll get into that when we get into our thoughts.
Okay.
No, we don't do a summary, do we, usually? Because you do the little, summary at the beginning of each episode. So, okay. Did you do it by episode? You better have. Yeah.
No, I watched it by... I did my notes per episode. But I think we should just give, a general...
Yeah, okay. So, general thoughts. You start.
Oh, we're doing general thoughts or general synopsis first?
Oh.
Or do you want to just... Okay, you know what? We'll just do...
just thoughts.
Summarize each episode. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I loved it. I thought it was really great. It had me crying, had me feeling all the emotions. There's some certain things that I found a little, a little too much, but we'll get into it as we see it and as we talk about it. Mm-hmm. But overall, I thought it was a really good show. And we had these matriarchs, these strong women that we've seen in Bridgerton, season 1 and 2, where now they're at the forefront and we're seeing them as women first. And I feel like Violet has always been relegated as, the mother figure. And now we actually kind of see her as a woman. Her garden's in bloom. And all of it. And I just, I felt like it was just a really strong women-focused story. And I feel like Bridgerton's always about that, but I feel like I really felt it in this one.
How did you feel about the actors? And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just, how do you feel about, the people portraying all the roles here?
I loved them. I thought they were all, they really fit the role. Even, so the main character is young Charlotte, and older Charlotte, and I think
Yeah.
young Charlotte really emulated.
The resemblance is uncanny. Like,
And the
how?
mannerisms and the way that she carried herself was so much like Golda.
Yes, but like they could have picked, like, found some amazing actress that, like, like doesn't totally look like her, but
They look
kinda does.
identical.
They look like actual siblings or like mother daughter. I don't know, but that is mind blowing to me. And for her to actually happen to be an actress as well, and a great actress at that actually can embody this role. Like, I was
Yes.
what? Who is casting? Who is the director of casting in Netflix, Bridgerton? Because like you did an amazing job. I mean, you always do. You know it, but like what?
No, I'm sure the casting director must be like smiling with glee right now because everyone is obsessed with the casting. I think they did such a good job. And like even Lady Danbury, like Agatha, young Agatha,
Yeah.
was so like similar, and she like they really studied their role and like did such a good job. And even like I'm not like this like disregarding the men, I feel like young George was also really great. He's such a good actor. He deserves an award. They all do. They're all so great. Young Brimsley, loved him. We got introduced to Reynolds, loved him. I feel like everyone really played their role really well. You? What are your thoughts?
Wait, I feel like you weren't finished with your thoughts though before I cut you off.
I don't want to like get too spoilery, but just like that I really, really enjoyed it, and I this might be a bit controversial.
Ooh.
So hold your
I'm
hold your
holding
hair.
my unexisting hat.
I liked it better than season 1 and 2 of Bridgerton.
What?
Yeah.
Well, that is controversial.
I know. Not that it's a comparison, but I just feel like if I was forced to choose, I felt like, I think because it could have been like the story was more like higher angst and like the stakes were higher. And we only had 6 episodes, so everything felt more intense. Maybe that could be the reason why I liked it better, but I don't know. I just thought that it did a really good job with the story, and I think it's going to be really hard to top it with season 3 of Bridgerton.
Okay, so
I feel like you have a total different opinion than me.
I kind of do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, I liked it. I liked it. Okay.
Okay.
And there were moments that were quite powerful, and from a distance I really appreciate the stories that were being told and the way that they were being told, and like you said, like I really loved seeing all 3 of these powerful women at a completely different phase of their life, while also seeing them in the now, quote unquote now. But I don't know why I never quite connected.
Really?
Like, emotionally. But that's not entirely true because, like I said, there were powerful moments, like emotional, powerful moments where I did connect. But it was like that connection was like losing me in other parts. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of finding myself like not totally invested as much as I wanted to be. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe it's the back and forth between past, present. Maybe it is the question of still just kind of wondering like why focus a series on the Queen, which like I kind of often found myself more invested in the parts about Lady Danbury.
Really?
Personally. Yeah, I was kind of connecting to that storyline more emotionally, or sort of like understanding it and like rooting for it in a way than the Queen, because I think something in the story of the Queen and the King, Charlotte and George. I don't know why I'm calling them the Queen and King. I think something was missing, or I mean, obviously this was 6 episodes, which I didn't know until the moment I clicked on Netflix to like watch the first episode, and I was like, oh, this is just 6 episodes. This is how clueless I was going into the show. I don't know. Something about their connection worked in some places and then didn't. And I think it's nothing on the actors. I think it might have been a writing issue in parts, a directing issue in other parts. I found that like technically speaking, like the way that the episodes are sort of like composed, like going from one scene to the next, wasn't as seamless as it is in Bridgerton to me.
Really?
Like, I don't know if this was a different team, because it is, I think his name is Tom Verica or something like that, the director for at least most of the episodes. I didn't check if it was like all the episodes. So it's the same person. I'm guessing it's probably a different editing team or whatnot. I don't know how these things work, but something about it felt different. Like the way that they were moving through the story didn't feel as organic and smooth as it is in the other show for me. Like,
okay,
which I think contributed to me not totally being able to like fall into it, which is kind of like what Bridgerton does for me. It's kind of like it really sucks you into and like immerses you into a completely different world where for like 8 hours you kind of forget the real world outside. You know, you're just like fully immersed in the world of the ton and, you know, the beautiful dresses and gorgeous landscapes and blah, blah, blah. There was something missing here for me. And like I said, I don't think it's a character issue or on the part of the actors. I think it's like more in the technical aspect of like the show itself. Yeah. But I liked it overall. And like I said, there were moments that really did pull me in emotionally and like, you know, I felt them.
Yeah.
So, and I also wanted to say, which this is me like totally skipping to like the final episode.
Okay, you can't do this.
Well, no, because I just want to say one thing I was thinking about, you know, about this show going into it was Bridgerton is. Well, at least I should say first, like, for me, it's not what you said. You know, you said, like, this beats Bridgerton for you. This does not beat Bridgerton for me. And I think what I realized watching this is that the reason why I love Bridgerton so much is the family aspect. I don't think it's ever been the stories. I think it was always the family and the bonds that is shared between the all the members of the family. And I think watching this, it made me realize how much I miss that, you know, like it's not here. The bonds aren't as strong. The relationships between people are a little bit messier, a little bit more complicated, which totally explains why you would love this more. But for me, my heart is in those like familial bonds of the Bridgerton family. So
I think what I'm talking about when I'm comparing, and if I like Queen Charlotte more than Bridgerton, I think I'm looking more so at like the romantic aspect and not so like the family of Bridgerton, because I love the family and I feel like I was missing them here because I feel like we don't really have a family to root for in this one. But I do think in like my perspective, I think the romance was a lot stronger in this one than it was in season 1 and 2 of Bridgerton. Just the way that it was handled, I think.
Okay, well, fair enough. But what I wanted to say before I literally caught myself off with a different point, which was not the original point. The original point was to say, the one thing I was thinking about going into this show was Bridgerton as a series is a romance series. And when Shondaland took over that story, they knew it was romance and they knew the rules of romance. And so they know they have to abide by a certain set of rules.
Yes.
That are the conventions of romance, aka giving everyone a happy ending. So the one thing I was thinking about was this is a spin-off, and not only is it a spin-off, it's a spin-off that doesn't exist in the main, like, the actual book series. So I was thinking they can do whatever they want with this. So I had that worry of, like, this is the one time it's like their opportunity to take it and, like, not abide by the rules.
Right.
And it's Shondaland, which we all know she loves heartbreak and like
she loves the
drama. Shit up.
Yes.
So I was like, are they gonna go for like total heartbreak, no happy endings, none of that, you know, like, because they could have. So what I wanted to say was I really appreciated that they didn't. And like, of course, this happy ending is somewhat temporary and very shaky in its nature just because, you know, of circumstances. But I really appreciated that they gave us that nonetheless. That they stuck to romance and the conventions of romance nonetheless. And I mean, I would even say like Lady Denbury's story is a happy ending in my book. You know, like
Really?
she got, well, yeah, because it doesn't mean you have to end up with someone. You know, like she got what she wanted. She advocated for herself and her wants and her desires, and she got them. So to me, that even fits.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into it yet. We'll talk about it later
Okay.
as we uncover her story.
Okay. Well, anyways, so yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was like worthy of being mentioned because it's important. I
Yeah.
really appreciate them for doing that because they could have not done that. All right, are we ready to, or
Yeah.
unless you have something else you want to say?
No, no, no. I mean, we'll talk about it as we go on. I don't think I have anything that I need to mention right now.
Okay, I do want to mention actually.
Listeners, we will never start the discussion, by the way.
I mean, it's not a Romancing the Monsters episode unless we go on and on for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just trying to fill time here. No, I'm not. No, what I want to say is, usually with these episodes, Bridgerton anyway, I have the time to watch it twice. Which means my notes are usually much more detailed because the second viewing is dedicated to picking up on everything that I missed the first time around, which usually is a lot. So I didn't get the chance to do that this time around, so apologies for that if there are little details that I'm missing out on or that I didn't like totally understand or whatnot. I mean, I'm hoping Seff will help me out.
I only watched it once.
Yeah, but you know, you have a better brain than mine, so
Okay, that's Miss Masters over here, sure.
oh, shut up. So fair warning, okay? I may not be as detailed as I usually am. I'm sorry about that. Time constraints and all that. So,
Okay.
anywho,
I'm gonna be like so on brand right now, and I have one more thing to mention.
please do.
Okay, so Golda, who plays the queen,
Yeah.
present day Bridgerton queen, it just hit me that she's a Guyanese woman, and I'm obsessed with that, and I think that's amazing that like she's playing the Queen of England, the country that colonized her own country. So I thought that was a real power move, and I was like kind of emotional about it because I am Guyanese, and I just loved seeing that and seeing her in that role. It was great.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. All right. Episode 1. Does anybody in the audience have anything to add before we actually begin?
And
the ghost
we see
that be.
we see a hand raise in the distance, and it is S. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, right. S is not here, but we should actually just briefly say S is obviously not here. She's not been silent this whole time. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us, but I'm sure she'll be watching the show eventually. And so if she has any thoughts, maybe she can share them with us in a future episode at some point.
She's currently shouting into the void. No, I'm kidding.
She's here. We just don't allow her to speak.
Oh my gosh.
She's not here. She's not here. She'll be here next episode. Well, not next episode because next episode will be part 2. But you know, future
episodes
probably.
Yeah.
Well, not probably. Certainly. What am I saying?
What? Okay, this is awful. She will be here, guys. I promise. Just not for these 2 episodes. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Episode 1, Queen to Be. I just gotta say it quick because otherwise we'll just like say something else. Episode 1, Queen to Be. What happens in this first episode of the whole series?
So we start off with kind of like an instrumental, I guess, entrance, and it's just like we're seeing Queen. She's not Queen yet. She's just Charlotte in Germany, and she is she's promised to be married to the King of England. So we end up with her. Gosh, I watched this so long ago. We end up with her just making her way to England, and then we see the credits, and can I say the music was really great in the credits. I loved it.
Yes, I do love the opening credit thing.
Yeah.
Better than the Bridgerton one, I would say.
Yeah. So this episode mainly in the past is basically Queen Charlotte. She's not queen yet. I don't know why I keep calling her Queen Charlotte.
I mean, she is. In our hearts, she was a queen from birth.
In our hearts and in our minds and our soul, she's queen. Anyways, so she is being basically inspected like, you know, an animal to see if she's appropriate to be wed to the king.
Yeah.
And of course she's doing the whole thing that we've seen with Marina in season 1 of Bridgerton where like they inspect her teeth. her hips, her complexion. They're asking if her moves can be, like, not her moves, her moles can be removed. Shut up.
The Canadian jumped out for a second there. Do you have good moves? How are your moves on this fine Tuesday?
Can you stop? And basically, we come to the conclusion. Can you stop? Be mature for a second. Marjorie.
I will get myself under control. I will. No more moose talk.
Anyways, so she's being inspected and by the king's mother named, she's Augusta, right? Princess Augusta?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
That
basically it is concluded that she will make lots and lots of babies because she's got good hips. And then it continues on with like the preparations for the wedding, and then we see all of that. And also the wedding happens and all that stuff. I'm just like really jumping in so we can talk about it. But during that all, we also get we see where the queen's at in present day Bridgerton, and we see her granddaughter has passed away. Her only legitimate heir to the throne has passed away, and now she's like on this, I guess, rat race to get her kids married and have legitimate heirs, because they have over like 40 illegitimate children.
Something crazy like that, yeah. Can I just say this show had me Googling like crazy, because I was like, I know like part of this is true, or quote unquote true.
I don't know.
Based off of, because like, Queen Charlotte was real and she truly married a George, and I was like, and they truly had a whole bunch of kids. So like I was Googling like, did their sons like actually like have, and like I wasn't finding a whole lot of answers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, that all happens, and she's prepped to get married. She has a wedding dress made from Paris, and she wants to wear that, but she is told she needs to be more traditional. And then, anyways, so basically this episode is like the episode of firsts, in the sense where we get first meetings.
Yeah, it's an introduction.
Her first exposure to England and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned it, the whole parallel scene with season 1 of the whole looking up or checking out the merchandise, if you will.
The fact that they made her open her mouth to see her teeth. Ugh.
Yeah. I thought about you in that scene, because I like vividly remember your disdain and hatred for that scene in season 1, rightfully so, obviously.
I know that it's a thing, and I know that currently could be a thing in other countries in the world right now, but it's just like, it just irks me to see it, and it's just...
Well, because it's always women of color, too.
Exactly.
Like, we understand that it's a thing, but it's just a weird coincidence, and it just has that, like, extra layer to it. The fact that the 2 times that it happens in this world, it's always women of color being eyed by white people.
Yeah.
So,
and also we should say that this is the marriage that started the whole I guess movement of people of color in the Bridgerton world, and how they have like titles and things like that. So this was called the Great Experiment.
Yeah, I hated that. That whole terminology, hated it. Like, is this a zoo? Like, what?
I understand. I guess they had to find a way to explain the introduction of race, I guess, in like British, like England of the 1700s or whatever. But I mean, it happened. We see it.
Well, that was one of my questions, actually. It's my first point that I wanted to bring up, because obviously in season 1 of Bridgerton, we're introduced to the whole concept of this is a society united, everyone's equal, blah, blah, blah. And that was quite a contentious issue when season 1 first came out, because people were like, that's unrealistic. Are you really going to tell me that love saved the day and blah, 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 and that, one couple could change it all and blah, blah, blah. Some people were really for it. Some people were really against it in that season. And obviously this is that story. Like, we are now telling that very story.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, how do you feel, at least in this first episode, like introduction, how did you feel about the way that they were going about reforming the whole British monarchy and having both sides united, as they say, like
an us versus them, basically?
Yeah, like the whole, like basically how it's set up and the plan and like the whole great experiment thing. Like, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I remember going into Bridgerton season 1, they said it was going to be a colorblind casting, which, I mean, I guess in this show they had to find a way to explain, but I feel like if they didn't have that, they wouldn't have a story, I don't think, for this season. Like, I like the whole, like, great experiment and, like, them emphasizing us versus them, like, colored versus white people. It's very much, like, at the forefront of the show, and she's been, like, called too brown. She's been called, like, tame, like, your hair a bit or wear other wigs or whatever. It was, like, a main plot point, and I don't know how I really feel about it, but I like the image they portrayed with her. I feel like she was like a constant, like she's a constant pushback, which I thought was really important. And I loved that she had her natural hair at the wedding. I loved that she was just herself and nothing, no matter how
the whole show she had her natural hair.
Yeah, and I loved that. I thought that was such an important point to make, and such an important like it was such an important visual, I think. And like having her constantly like push the queen, but not the queen, what's her name? Princess Augusta back into like her spot. I loved that. And the great experiment really, like, it was jarring, yeah, but I feel like they handled it in a way that I think made it appropriate, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like, I guess it made it okay for Bridgerton, like for season 1 of Bridgerton. Like it did what it had to do, and I feel like it did highlight the importance of incorporating color into this very white world.
Yeah, I guess, yes, but I wish there had been more emphasis on intention, in the sense of, like, especially from the king's perspective. It just felt to me like a lot of the work was being put in by the women, and specifically the women of color here. Yeah. Like, it was their job to find a way. Yeah, and I wish the story had revolved more around, I understand why it can't, because obviously our king has stuff to deal with. But I wish it had started more from an intent, like his own desire to change, to see change. You know what I mean? Like, it was always kind of like, oh, it happened. You know that scene where they have the ball and he's like, oh, we made more progress in this one moment than we did in the past 200 years or something like that. And I'm like, but still, that wasn't your what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't his. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, his actions, his
like, it wasn't like a desire or like a dream for him to have a world united.
Yeah, like, you didn't really help, and you didn't really want this. It just happened, and once, like, he didn't choose her.
No, you know the only reason she was selected was because she would not have heard the rumors of the Mad King.
Yeah, and she was the only one kind of willing, which
not
she wasn't willing.
I think it was more so, I think that Princess Augusta actually did mention, like, she was selected from a faraway land. Like, she won't know anything about the king. So, and she wouldn't ask questions because she would just be grateful to be there, basically.
Yeah, so her presence in his life isn't a choice he willingly made in that sense. Like, he didn't see her and fall in love with her and think, I want to change the world for her type thing, you know what I mean? It was kind of just like it happened, and things were kind of just happening around him, and he was like, yeah, I'm cool with it. But it's like, but the point is that just being cool with it is not enough, especially from your position as white and male and king of England. Like, that is not enough. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Like, that to me remains an issue in the whole structure of this world, because it's like, it's hard to believe that there would truly be change, which I guess at the end of this show, it's still very shaky. You know what I mean? And so even then, it's kind of like, how did we go from this shakiness, because everything's kind of left sort of like in question, to Bridgerton season 1, where things seem much more established and grounded and, safe. At least,
but like you said, it's the women doing the legwork. So Queen Charlotte at this point is ruling England on behalf of her king. So she had the power to make those changes. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the king should have had more of an impact, or maybe, like you said, just the initial Like, I want Charlotte, and like that starts the
like
ball
actually
rolling,
striving
basically.
for change. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I agree.
Because yeah, like I said, it remains an issue if the actions being taken are always only imposed on the shoulders of the people of color here.
Yeah. And we constantly in the show see their fight. Like, even Lady Danbury, like, we see her constant fight of like
Yes.
remaining a lady and like ensuring the estate for her son, like all of that. Like, we see her constant struggle and her constant fight and having to be like witty and conniving in a sense to ensure the safety of her family.
But also regarding that scene, so, or the setup, I guess I should say. So basically, my understanding is they didn't know she would be black, correct?
That she would be, I guess, as brown as she was. I don't know.
And then once they see her, they want to backtrack.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and then I believe it's Princess Augusta or whatever her name is, who is like, well, like there was something about that setup that was very confusing to me, because it was like, we're backing out, but like we'll look weak if we do, so like I guess we'll say yes, and then I guess we'll change everything in society just to save face. And I was like, there's an irony in that, of like royals wanting to save face and doing the wildest, craziest shit just to not appear like, you know, they messed up, which like technically they didn't mess up, they did a great thing, you know, unknowingly. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like,
no, their exact words. So Parliament basically, I don't know which guy, it was like the annoying one, they're all annoying, but he's like, you did not say she was brown. So like, obviously colorism is so strong here. Like, I don't know if it was that you didn't say she was this brown, or like she was brown skinned at all. Like, I don't know what the intent was behind that. I think obviously to like show that they're very ignorant and they're not wanting change, but now, like you said, it's thrust upon them. They have to do it or else they'll look weak in front of the people. I don't know. I just feel like the show really hit on like points in society that like you don't really get to see portrayed on the screen, which colorism being a big one.
Can I just say that I gasped
Lady Danbury
when they mentioned the Smythe Smiths.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, because they're the other series, right?
They're a spin-off series from the original Bridgertons. Wait, did the Smythe Smiths come first or the Bridgerton? Now I think they came after, but yeah. But they're set before? Yeah, I think it's set before, but she wrote it after. Anyways, I love the Smythe Smiths. I wish they had like actually been like, they are the series that I want. You know, if they're gonna make a spinoff, I would love for them. Yes, because they're a chaotic family. I love, well, and also it's cousins. It's not like siblings, at least from memory. It's cousins. Yeah, I just love that series because I think it'd be hilarious. Like, it'd be very comical, more so probably than Bridgerton. But yeah, I was just very happy to see them mentioned here, and even like technically appeared in an episode, but like we didn't know who they were in the scenes. There's one scene where they're like, oh, the Smythe Smiths are here. It's with Lady Danbury, and they're like, oh, the Smythe Smiths are here. But there was like a bunch of people in the room, so I was trying to figure out who are the Smythe Smiths here. Yeah, but I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, anyways.
Speaking of Lady Danbury,
yeah,
the jump scare.
What jump scare?
How'd you feel about her young Agatha introduction? I was scarred for life.
Oh, the sex scene.
Is married to this like old ass man. Nothing against, like, I'm not ageist, but I just hate this man with a passion. And it was just like, it was like so like in your face, which obviously like we know that she's not the exception. Like, we know, we always talk about like all these love stories being the exception to like the societal norm and like what happened back in the day, but she was not it, and she like was in an awful situation, and it was just like, for me, it was just a lot.
I have complicated feelings about that man, because I don't know, maybe there's something I missed, but my understanding is that he's not an awful man. He's a man of his time, meaning that he is a husband and the men of the household, and he thinks about himself first and himself only.
Yeah.
And his wife is his, and that's that. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily see him with like a, oh, I hate that guy. It's more like, well, that's the real, you know, sad reality of probably a lot of women back then. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It's kind of just, it was really uncomfortable, really unpleasant.
Yeah.
And something you wanted to see end as fast as possible, you know?
And it just kept coming, these scenes. And
that man was real horny.
I don't know, you already had 4 kids. You had 4 children.
There are more scenes with that man than the actual sex scenes between our leads.
So that's one of my gripes. I felt like the show really highlighted Lady Danbury's discomfort. I guess we needed to know how awful it was, but I think one scene was more than enough to see that.
Yeah,
and I felt like we kept having to see her, like, I guess my trouble was looking at it with like a today's lens and like with my feminist lens. Like, it was really hard to remove that. And like, you know, we constantly had to see her displeasure. And I'm happy, like, spoiler, obviously, we saw her like actually enjoying sex for the first time, which I thought was great. But I just felt like it really highlighted how awful her life was. But one scene was more than enough for that. And I just, like, when I say that I hate him with a passion, I just like hate how he diminished her accomplishments. Like, he thought he did everything on his own. And like you said, that is very much the mentality of the men of that day.
She's his wife. Her accomplishments are his, in his mind. She is a product of him. So
basically, that's how he sees it. So when
he
dropped dead, I
was happy. Born of Adam. So like, but that's how he thinks, right?
No,
like,
of course,
that's why I'm saying, like, I have complicated feelings. It's like, yeah, obviously today I'd be like, fuck this guy, but like transporting myself in that time, I just think he's just like every other man, you know, like, I mean, like, the heroes of Bridgerton are very unrealistic in that regard.
Of course. Like, and that goes to like every historical romance that we've read or seen. Like, they are very much like unrealistic, and they are very much the exception to the rule. Like, they are the happily ever afters that obviously were more
they're
rare.
The fantasy. They're
exactly.
The fantasy.
They were a fantasy.
This guy is the reality.
More so, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I just feel like I did not need to see so many scenes. I did not need to see this man take out his teeth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was scarring. Like, it was just another level. Like, they really went hard for that first scene. Just, like, to make it as appalling as possible. But I agree. They didn't need to add in so many scenes after the fact.
Yeah. And I understand the story they were going for to tell with Lady Danbury. Like, she is the one that, like, you know, she did have the short end of the stick, more or less. And anyways, I won't go into the details, but yeah, I will say that was really scarring.
Yeah. So moving on from that to the wedding.
Yes.
So,
the first meeting. Well, I mean, the wedding is happening.
It's the wedding. Yeah.
Wedding day.
Wedding day. We get a wedding day in the first episode of this season.
Love that for us.
It's very much arranged marriage, which of course I'm here for all day, every day. It's one of my favorite tropes, and it's been a while because I actually haven't been reading historical romance in a hot minute. So
I know.
So wedding day, and our bride is fleeing the scene.
She's very much against this wedding. She does not want it. She thinks he's a troll and a monster and does not.
Yeah. Well, because she keeps asking questions.
Exactly.
And, like, nobody answers, which I'm not sure why they're gatekeeping that whole, like, they could have told, like, Brimsley, like, why was he hiding things?
Yeah, because Brimsley didn't really know the king. He didn't know what he was dealing with and what he was struggling with.
Didn't he work for the king before he worked for her? Like, he must have worked in the
yeah, but he was also trying to figure out what was going on as we were trying to figure out what was going on.
Well, it's not hard, Brimsley, to go, well, he has beautiful brown hair cut short with a nice set of teeth and a beautiful smile and brown eyes, and
he's cute.
Like, yeah, it wasn't hard, Brimsley, to say he's handsome as hell. You'll be very happy. Like, come on.
Anything. But I think like Charlotte, I think we saw her struggle with like the the royal, or I guess the royal way or the British way or whatever, like, you know, Brimsley 5 paces behind her. Like, I think he had to keep that distance from her, and so I can see why, but
You're right. Probably it just shows how his alliances change. You know, how at first he's not like he's yeah, like his alliance is to the crown in that first episode, but like as he gets to know the queen and he very much becomes, you
I
know,
love Brimsley.
yeah, we all need a Brinsley in our life, don't we?
Anyway, sorry, as you're saying, she's fleeing the scene.
She's fleeing the scene, attempting to climb a wall in a full gown, which props to that.
So that was the British wedding dress, right? That was the traditional
Right.
one the princess wanted her to wear.
Yes, and that was
Right.
also the teaser that got me interested in the series in the first place.
Yeah.
So our king appears out of thin air as she's attempting to climb the wall and failing miserably. And they meet. And
it was a great scene. She's trying to
it was
climb
a
over
great
the wall.
yeah, it was a great meet cute.
Yeah. She's climbing over the wall, and obviously she knows, like we already said, she knows nothing about him. She knows nothing about his appearance. She knows nothing. So she's literally asking this man that she perceives as a guard to like help her over the wall because she cannot marry this troll. And then he's like, "What makes you think he's a troll?" And then like they have this cute meeting, and then it's a beautiful foot in the mouth scene in the sense where like she's literally like, "Oh my gosh, like you are my future husband."
Yeah.
It's
Well,
great.
they have this great witty like banter back and forth.
Yeah.
I do wish, now that I think about it, I actually hadn't like thought about this until just now. I wish they had had that more.
Yeah, it became serious really quickly.
You know what I mean? Like they have it there. Yeah, they have it there. They're like witty with each other. They have like, you know, a quick back and forth, and you feel the sexual tension and potential between these two individuals like right off the bat. But I do feel like you lose that between them right then and there, basically. Almost. Like, it just...
I wouldn't say you lose it. I think it just alters, like, the way that it's dealt with. Like, I feel like... Anyways, like, whenever, like, you see, like, them separate themselves from each other, it becomes more, like, charged, more, like, sexual. Whereas here, I felt like it was more playful. And, like...
Yes, but it was, like, a compatibility of the minds that I feel we lose a little bit after that. I wish we had seen them spar with words.
I agree.
That.
I think it got serious really quickly, and while like I appreciate the story and I loved their love story, I think you're right. Like they needed to have more like playful moments.
Yeah. Playful moments where they get to just be themselves, which understandably like you said, the circumstances are what they are, and that's not like something that's as easy for them to achieve. But yeah,
I did really like when he like told her everything, not everything, but like little snippets about him, and like, you know, he's a farmer, and like I just love how he was just so charming, and I was just like,
just George.
He's just George.
He's just George.
And I loved it. I love how like that's what like made her kind of like go forward with this wedding. She's like, all right, I guess I can marry him. Because like in that moment, she needed to know that her husband was a person. Like, and he was very much human in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you said, she agrees, and she changes her dress to her actual wedding dress, the one that she had made.
It was so pretty.
Yeah. And then get married, and then they have the whole reception, and they seem so happy together, and you're like, wow, they're off to a great start. What's the drama gonna be?
Soon.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get a wedding night in this first episode. I was so here for it.
I know.
Because the tension's high, you know, after this like witty banter that they've got, you're like, wow, this is great. And then this asshole he has his reasons, but at this point, we do not know them. This asshole literally drops her off at some castle somewhere, and he's like, see ya. gonna go
Yeah.
live in my own house. Like, it's not separate chambers, it's separate houses.
Houses. He's like, you live here.
Yeah.
And I'll live, like, she's gonna live in Buckingham Palace. He'll live in, like, the Q Palace, Q House, whatever. And he literally is like, I am king. I am your king. And, like, he emphasizes it. And then she's like, all right, sorry, I thought you were just George, but I'm mistaken. And then it ends with her literally saying, I wish I went over the wall. And that's
Yeah.
the episode ends. Because in that moment, that playful prince is gone. I mean, Prince King is gone, and, like, now he's the king again. And, like, it was sad. I felt so bad for her.
Well, it's our first introduction to, I wouldn't say, like, his shifty moods, but more like his nervous personality, I guess. Like, he's very, like, you can see it, like, peaks of it in that scene of there's something going on emotionally that he's not dealing with very well. But also there's that one moment where she's like, I don't know much, but again, I don't know the dialogue, but something like, I don't know much, but I know that I deserve a wedding night, or I know that, like, we're supposed to have a wedding night. And he gets so angry at that, like, and you can tell he feels very used, and he's
exactly,
like,
yeah.
well, let's get on with it then, like, you know.
And the way he, like, words it too, it's just like, it was very much like, it was not a chore for him, but it's like, okay, that's what you want, then you'll get my body, and that's, like, basically it. And then she's like, no, not if it's like this. Like, she obviously, like, was told enough information or knew enough about what was going to happen or what should have happened that she knew that it was wrong off the bat. And, like, that's when their playful mood disappeared.
Yeah. But I remember at the time of this scene being very confused about that.
Me too.
Well, confused, yes, but also, like, it was whiplash. Like, I was getting whiplash the way that she was getting whiplash, because I was like, what is going on here? Like, who is this man? 'Cause I don't know this man.
What happened? Like, what's going on? I initially thought, like, because, not spoiler, like, it's not even a spoiler. We know from season 1 and 2, like, the king is struggling mentally, and, like, we see that. So I didn't think it was happening so soon. Like, I thought it was something that happened gradually. I didn't know.
Later in life,
it was, like,
right? Like,
yeah, I thought it was, like, something, I guess, equivalent to, like, dementia or something. Like, I didn't know.
Well, it is
and,
dementia,
like,
right? Or is it not?
No, I was reading, so people thought it was bipolar disorder.
Oh.
That's what the history books thought. Or there's something else. I forgot the word of it, but it was something with a P.
Interesting. Okay.
And so they didn't really obviously know what was going on because they had only history books to go off of. So
it isn't something necessarily that well, I don't know much about bipolar disorder, I'll admit that much, but so it's not something that necessarily means his life is shortened.
No. Okay, so they say it's either bipolar disorder or acute porphryrias, a metabolic disorder that impacts the nervous system.
Oh.
So that's what it's either of those things.
Yeah. Okay. That's, the other one I believe is like hallucinations and stuff. If I remember correctly from what I've read. The porphryria, whatever that was.
Acute porphyrias.
I don't know how to pronounce that.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the correct pronunciation. So at this point and at the end of episode 1, I thought he had a mistress or something. Like, I didn't think it was anything like to do with his mental state.
I thought he was a virgin. I'm not gonna lie. I thought my man was a little nervous about the whole thing, about performing his duties, and I was like, are they going for that?
I mean,
which, to be fair, he did not strike me as a man who goes around a whole lot. Like, they could have gone for the virgin route, and I would have been like, yeah.
Do you think he was a virgin though?
I don't think he was, just because of their first sex scene. Like, he says something that kind of made me think he's got experience, but I was still doubting it. I was like, he's got virgin boy written all over his forehead.
And, like, just, like, obviously, like, when we get flashbacks to his life, it wasn't an easy one. So that's what I'm saying. Was sex really at the forefront? I don't know. Unless they helped, I don't know. They used it, maybe.
But it is a man in the 18 whatever hundreds, and I feel like men back then, it was like you reach 14 years old and like they
They
throw
give you
women at
a
you.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, like you never know. Like I just feel like he's lived, I think he was 20, right, when we first meet him?
And she was 17 when she said,
Yeah, she
I'm
was a
1 and
child.
7. I was like,
I know.
wow, we're going with
Yeah.
that? Even
Yeah.
in the year 2023? I mean, I understand wanting to be historically accurate, but I was like, that was a brave move, because you're basically showing or telling everybody that this is a 17-year-old on screen being married and having sex.
But he was also young, so I guess maybe they did it that way. Unless they had that
You're
age
still
gap.
underage. Like, you know, like
Okay,
technically
yeah.
speaking, you're watching a 17-year-old is
But, like,
what they're saying.
Historically, we
know,
this.
yes,
They got
historically,
married
yeah.
real early. 17 is even,
Yeah.
it could be,
Oh, yeah.
in like the
Yeah.
midpoint
Mm-hmm.
on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Anyways, where are we going with this?
I don't know.
You thought he was a virgin. We were questioning whether
Oh, yeah,
he
you
was a
said
virgin
he's
or not.
20.
Yes, I think he's 20. Oh, do you want me to search it up? Like,
No,
actually?
no,
'Cause I
because
don't...
you were saying he's 20 when I interrupted you to say she's 17.
Yeah. Anyways, where are we going with this? Anyways,
nowhere.
episode first.
Episode first. End.
Episode 2, honeymoon bliss.
Honeymoon bliss.
Do you want to start off with a little synopsis?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
I don't want to do the synopsis. I'm terrible at
Okay.
synopsis. This is always your job.
Fine. So it starts off with the queen. Sorry, where is this? Okay, the queen in, I guess, present day Bridgerton. She's with her kids, and we get the iconic line of she's looking at her children. They're all sprawled out on the couch and on the lounge chairs, whatever. And she said, "Virgins to the left of me, whores to the right." And I was just like, I love her. Like, she's exposing her children, and like, you know what? She just has iconic one-liners, and then we talked about it before we started recording, and I loved her, like the way she consoled her child when his daughter died. It was like, sorrows, sorrows, prayers, sorrows.
With the most like annoyed face.
Yeah,
like,
it was. Yeah, she's great. Anyway, so she tells them, I think we already talked about it, but she tells them that they need to like get serious and like find wives and marry.
We
wives
need
and
royal
husbands and get
babies
married.
at all costs. she has the equivalent of a breeding kink, but for everybody else.
Exactly. And so we also hear Lady Whistledown as well, like she's talking about how this queen is on this race to get her children married off, and like she's successful with all these other people, but when it comes to her own children, she's not. So what's going on there? And I think that kind of like brings our attention to her maybe not focusing on her children as much as she could have been doing. So anyways, we cut to the past. Oh, sorry, you were gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say something, but I'm kind of questioning now if I should bring it up later. I guess maybe I can just like introduce the point and bring it back later when it's more relevant. But I do think that this show shows different sides of motherhood, especially you know, I mean, I will say Bridgerton does do that because there's a bunch of very strong mothers in Bridgerton that, you know, all have very different relationships with their family and their kids. But I thought it was interesting how, yeah, again, this show shows another set of different kinds of mothers that aren't the kinds of mothers that we see in Bridgerton either. So I just love the variety and the attention to wanting to show different sides of motherhood and different kinds of women, and the relationships that these different kinds of women have with their kids, very much depending on, did they want those kids? Did they not? Did they want the life that they have? Did they not?
Did they have other priorities stopping them?
Did they
from
have supportive,
giving them their all?
yeah, good partners to have those kids with or not? How were they shaped? Like, how did their life shape the way that they are as mothers, type thing? Like, I appreciate that we continue this thread of like showing different kinds of mothers. So yeah, I'll just say this for now because I will bring it back when it's more relevant.
Anyway, so we go back into the past and we see young Queen Charlotte having issues and just like really struggling with staying on her own because at this point she hasn't seen the king in
Yeah.
God knows how long.
Yeah.
She's really bored. And she decides to take it upon herself to go and see her husband. And just to see what's going on there. So she takes the carriage and goes to the Q Palace or Q House or whatever. And what happens there?
Because it is literally a prison. Like, because for the
Yeah.
time, for the honeymoon period, she's not allowed to see anyone, go anywhere. And so
Exactly, yeah.
she's literally dropped off at this house that is not her own house. You know, technically speaking, like, she doesn't think of this place as her home yet.
Yeah.
Alone.
She's not allowed to
with
call on
nobody.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a whole bunch of people that mean nothing to her that she doesn't know. In a whole different country, speaking a different language. Like, I was just like, my goodness, I would have jumped out of a window, I think. Like, it sounded really fucking lonely and boring.
And it's so boring. And like the fact that they still like she had to maintain this like propriety. She had to change her
3
dresses.
times a
She had
day.
her morning dress, her day dress, her
Yeah.
evening dress, and it's like she had to do the whole hair again, the makeup, the jewelry, the shoes needed to change. Like she had to go through all of this again and again and again and again and again, and it was just like seeing the repetition and like her sitting at the table alone eating this all this food and like the table's all spread out for one person and she has all these like I guess they were butlers or servants or whatever, they were there. Like she was just so alone despite being in a room filled with people and filled with food. She was alone. Even Brimsley like wasn't really a confidant or a friend at that point. Like she was just very much alone.
Agreed.
Anyways,
yeah.
so she goes
So she
to
goes
the
to
king
Yeah.
and what happens? You're like, I don't remember. All right.
Well, no, I do remember. He's in his observatory, and looking at the stars, and he basically explains to her, which is like it's difficult to talk about these things because obviously later on we get like a
We
whole
know.
different perspective, so it's difficult to talk about them.
At this point, in Charlotte's perspective, she
Yeah.
very much sees a man very disinterested in her, who very much prefers stars and constellations to her. And she asks him to fight with her or to fight for her. And he's like, no, just go home. Like, this is not what I want. You're not what I want. Go home.
Yes, which, see, like, it's difficult. It's a difficult matter because I understand this man is going through things, but instances like her literally asking him, fight for me, fight with me, and him not doing that and not just not doing it, but also not understanding the importance of him making the effort considering who she is and what she represents in this new life.
Agreed.
Those instances are the ones that make me go, where is his part in it? You know, where is the effort that he makes? Because he needs to be walking down that path with her, not just following her, behind her. You know what I mean? Like, he should be
agreed.
neck to neck with her on that front. Like, but he's not.
And this is where, like, obviously we know the power perspective comes into play. And I like that they did it. And I love that, like, we're with Charlotte totally. We're like, what's, like, it's such an asshole. Like, you're, like, what are you? Like, you're nothing. Like, come on. Like, this is, like, shitty. Poor Charlotte is struggling here. And, she does, like, he does not deserve her. Like, we're fully on board with, like, Charlotte. We're Team Charlotte at this point. But, like, the jarring impact we get when we see a difference in perspective, which I won't get into yet. But anyways, I was very much like on her Team Charlotte at this point.
Yes, but I guess the question for me that remains is like, does the difference in perspective change completely how I feel about his lack of interest and effort?
It wasn't a lack of interest. I think it was like, at least, I don't want to get into it, but it was like for him that was his way of protecting her from like what he's perceived as his life. Like, I don't Like it's very much not like, it's not very like, he's not trying to change lives here. Like as a king, he should have been, putting all these things into place, showing like this interracial relationship, like how it has an impact on society, and like encouraging like people of color in society, and like being that person and that couple that, like you said, that, create change. But at this point, I feel like the whole show was basically just them coming together and fighting to be together every day.
Yeah, but like you said, he's not changing lives. And I guess, like, maybe what the show is trying to tell us is that he was never the man for that. Like,
Yeah.
he was never gonna be the man to change things, which, again, so then everything is on her. Because she has to change lives, whether she wants to or not, just because of who she is. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I don't like.
That's the thing, though. I think that was a takeaway of the show, is that she was the one pulling the weight. She was the one hiding how bad it was for George. She was the one that had to, like, do everything herself. She had no support, basically, from her husband because of, situations that were out of both of their control. So I think it just highlighted the weight that she was under as a queen, as a person, as a woman.
So I guess maybe, like, in a way, what we usually do in romance is create that, like, fantasy, right? Where things like that are remedied, and, like, you would see the king actually step up as a rich white man and do the right thing, and, like, but maybe what the show the show is doing is, like, not doing that, like, kind of just like showing how it too often is, truly, that this falls back onto the shoulders of those that are experiencing that very reality, that it's quote unquote their job to undo the things that we have done to them, type thing.
Yeah. And we kind of see that with Charlotte too. Like, again, I feel like we're jumping all over the place, but we see like that shift in her too, to actually fight for her, like people of color, and like, encourage their position in society. And obviously at this point, she's very much about herself. She's very much about like, like not having to pick her own oranges and hating that idea of it. And then like we see like different aspects of her, like kind of not selfish, but very like self-focused. And then as the show progresses and her friendship with Lady Danbury progresses, we see it shift.
So we kiss and make up.
Not yet. We get Brimsley and Reynolds fucking.
Oh, that's right.
Love them. Anyways, great.
They're cute.
And they're still like at a standstill in the sense where they haven't consummated their marriage. And we get Brimsley telling Reynolds to get the king to make a gesture.
Right.
So the king sends her the little doggy.
Right.
And she does not want that dog. She's like, what is it?
I mean, and even when he explains the meaning of the gift, I was still like, that's a bad gift. Like, just straight up, I don't like the idea or the meaning behind it, even after you've explained it.
Yeah, she's like, this is not a dog. This is, what does she call it? A disfigured bunny or something. Anyways, I feel like this episode really started the friendship of Lady Danbury and her.
Very fierce woman in this episode. I mean, she always is, but,
And what does Lady Danbury help her understand a bit more? with drawings.
Sex positions. Because our queen does not know anything as usual. Though, I mean, I would have expected queens, to be honest, to know at least a little bit more than the regular folks. I don't know why I expected that, but like...
I think queens are like people of royalty, I guess. Or even like maybe in the time period, I guess they had to maintain true virgin.
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect them to be kept as sheltered as other women, just because their duty... They have, like, a much more important duty than, like, your regular woman that just becomes a wife and a mother type thing. Like, she is a queen. You know what I mean? Like,
But again, it was very much the same thing. Queens were more so...
yeah, she's just there to be bred.
Exactly, just to produce the next heir. That was always her job. But in this show, we see that shift and we see her become like this person that makes the decisions. So we got some intense drawings. And now she's very much aware of what goes on.
Yeah.
When you be fucking. Anyways, so it just highlights how sheltered she is, like you said. And now the kiss and makeup. So what happens?
Well, he's very good with buttons.
Okay, whoa, hold on. He literally shows up out of the blue for dinner, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, why are you here? Like, what is
She's
this?
like, for dinner? She's all, like, offended. He literally just walked in expecting to be able to have dinner with her, as if everything he just put her through didn't happen, because
didn't mean anything. And then he's like, do you want to see why I've been so distant? So he literally takes her to his conservatory and shows her the stars and like Venus, and how like he'll be able to map the distance or whatever. Like, it was just something like she was like, really, like this? Okay.
The king is a nerd.
He's so cute. I love it. Anyway, so they consummate finally.
Yeah, he's very good with buttons.
There you go.
And we get the schmecks. How do we feel about the schmecks in this show?
Schmecks was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. Not...
You did? Nice.
I meant that it was done really well. And like we've said in our Bridgerton, I think it was season 1 or even I think it was season 1. Like, they really highlight the feminine pleasure and like how it wasn't like over sexualized. It was very much like it was just done really well.
They've been taming it or toning it down a lot. We remarked upon that in season 2 compared to season 1, where season 1 was very, just like showing everything, bearing it all type thing, like the female anatomy, the male anatomy. Well, man, we've never seen a peen.
I don't think so.
But, season 1? Yeah, there were...
I don't think we saw a lot. We saw butts.
There were boobs and asses everywhere.
We saw boobs. Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. I only watched it once. So you're probably right. But I still feel like this was very much like how I remembered season 1, like Queen Charlotte. No,
season 2 compared to season 1 was way toned down on that front. And the nudity was
season 2 did not even have a sex scene, and don't even get me started on that.
Huh?
I said season 2 did not even have a sex scene. So.
Well, you're right, and yeah, that will forever be a gripe with that season. But what I mean is just there was a lot of backlash on that front after season 1. People were very uncomfortable with that, which, like, as a romance reader, I don't like it when people listen to the masses and tone things down just for the sake of, I don't know, Karen in her house somewhere seeing things on TV and being shocked.
I'm sorry, if Game of Thrones can show all the rape scenes, but romance shows, we don't really get the consensual sex scenes. Thanks.
But anyway, all I wanted to say was this seems to be a trend that continues in this spin-off anyway, where it's quite toned down. And I will say that it's the scenes between Lady Danbury and Lord Danbury are almost more explicit than the ones between our leads.
I don't know if it was because they wanted it to be more jarring,
But they don't even spend a whole lot of time on them. Like, the sex scenes in this one felt more like the sex scenes you tend to get in like regular movies. You know what I mean? Which I am mourning the loss. As like flashy and extra as like season 1 was on that front, I am kind of mourning the loss of that, just because it feels like we're kind of moving towards, like, slowly towards a more like proper, more like, you can watch this with your parents type show.
Dude, I still could not watch this with my parents. I was still like, oh my gosh, scene finished, please, please, please.
I mean, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like, I just... romance is not about that. Romance is about bearing it all, having those sex scenes on page, and having them be explicit. And I feel like they're kind of, like, moving away from the explicit, and I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if I felt that.
I do.
Like, I mean, in the sense, yeah, sure, we didn't, like, explicitly see, like, actions alluded to, sure. But I still found them very steamy. Like, I didn't feel, and I still felt connected to the characters to a point where it was still, like, it felt like a romantic sex scene.
I didn't.
You didn't.
They weren't memorable to me. No. And I'm sad about that. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's obviously romance is more than sex, but sex is a part of it. Yeah. And usually you want the sex scenes between the characters to be memorable. And even though there wasn't like an actual proper all-out sex scene in season 2, that one scene on the patio thingy, under the gazebo thingy, is memorable. Like, I remember it. I can picture moments of it. Right now, I just finished this show, and I cannot picture a single one of their sex scenes. I can picture a couple of Lady Danbury and Lord Danbury's scenes. The one where he's fucking her from behind. Lord Jesus. But
you have to remind me.
But between our leads, I can't. And that to me means it was a bit tame. It was a bit...
This is where we differ. Because I feel like I felt the romance. Like, obviously not in this first sex scene. Because, I mean, like, it wasn't really, like... It wasn't all bared at that point. Like, their emotions weren't bared. But I still felt like the connection between the characters. I felt like the music. I felt like everything leading up to it and also, like, during it. I felt like, for me at least, that it was done well. Like, I remember their sex scenes. I remember the one in the bath. I thought that was hot. Like, I remember certain scenes of their sex scenes that I found, like, that, like, were memorable. So...
Yeah, I remember her getting into the bath. But, like, beyond that, it was cut so short. Like, that's also what I mean. It's like they were all very, very short. I don't know. Like, it just, to me, it just feels like, as a whole, they're kind of moving away from where they started out. And that makes me sad because they sold us this show with a specific thing in mind. You know what I mean? Like, they sold us a specific feel and a set of expectations, and they're kind of moving away from that. And I don't know if it's because of the backlash. I think it probably is, and I don't like that. I don't like that they probably listened to the Karens of this world and are moving away from what romance is, which, of course, romance is not only sex. As I said, there is romance without sex, but these books have sex. Therefore, romance and sex are a part of this world.
Yeah.
So,
like, I see your point, but I think, like I said, this is where we differ. Like, I didn't feel that in this. I felt it more so in season 2 of Bridgerton. Because, like, they actually removed all sex scenes. Whereas in this one, I felt like the sex scenes were impactful. Look at us being so scientific about sex scenes and, like, you know, how impactful they are.
I mean, I'm an eager bitch, okay?
Yeah.
I want my sex scenes.
I found them great, and I love the whole, like, even days. Yeah, I think we're looking for different things with these sex scenes, I think.
Well, I think you and I especially have always connected to romance in very different ways. I think.
Yeah.
So.
And neither way is wrong. I think it's just...
No, it's just how we connect to it. Yeah. How we enjoy it. It's just very different ways of enjoying it. So, I'm not surprised that you like this show more than I do, you know?
Yeah.
So, the end of this episode... My note literally
Whoa, we're not done yet. Oh, no, it is the end of this episode. Yeah,
my note literally just say, uh-oh, so it begins. Because, like you, I didn't think they were going to actually have this be a plot point so early on in his life.
So the sex, I guess, montage, it basically ends abruptly because Queen Charlotte overhears George and his mother Augusta talking about what was going on, and he's like, the marriage is consummated, like, I did everything, I did my duty to this country, to you, to the crown, I've done it. She believes that I am smitten with her, or whatever he says, and Charlotte overhears this, and then distance ensues, basically, because she's like, I thought we were stepping forward as a couple, as man and wife, like, I thought we're moving forward.
They had a lot of moments like that where it's not even like miscommunication, it's lack of communication, period, between them. That brought on a lot of the drama between them. And I maybe that's also part of why I didn't fully connect with this story, because I'm not a fan of that. I am the rare person here who actually likes miscommunication. I will take that drama all day, any day. But lack of communication, I struggle with a lot. Or just like people not even talking to each other. Not like misunderstanding, because like I personally think people misunderstand each other all the fucking time because we are terrible at listening to one another.
Yeah.
But not even talking about it, not even like that infuriates me. It's fine once, but it actually happens a lot in this show, and I struggled with that, I think.
I think a lot of it, I feel like a lot of it comes to Charlotte not really knowing her place in this new country, not really knowing her place in her husband's life. Like, I don't feel like it's more like...
But also him isolating himself constantly.
Yeah, well, because, like, obviously when we get his perspective, we see why he does it and why he is the way he is, and, like, the immense pressure he feels because he's the king of England, and because of, like, the way he was raised, and all these treatments that he had to undergo to, I guess, be quote-unquote normal, or try to be normal in this society that's very much, you know, against any type of sickness, as well as, like, sickness of the mind, I guess they would see it. And I don't know, that's how I see it. Like, they just don't know their place in society and in their world and, like, with each other. So lack of communication happens because she believes and he believes things at face value. She hears him say things and she's like, all right, that's what he feels, then that's it. And vice versa.
Yeah. It's just not a preferred thing for me. I don't love that. But anywho, we do get to episode 3, Even Days. That's what is the episode in season 1 that's like the sex episode? Is it episode 6?
Yeah.
Here it's episode 3. Even Days, because they be fucking on even days.
Even days.
Because we are eager to produce a royal heir.
And they be fucking everywhere, on top of every surface.
Yeah, but before we get there, actually, this is the episode where we are introduced to young Violet, which
yes,
I wasn't expecting to see young Violet at all.
Me too.
I was happy, which this actually put into perspective. I don't know about you, because like I obviously read the whole book series, and in the book series, Lady Danbury's like way older. She's like a 90-year-old or something. And so the age difference between her and Violet in the book series is obvious. You know, they're like completely different what's the word I'm looking for? Generations. But in the series, the TV series, I kind of thought they were about the same age. Were you?
Not necessarily.
Or like she was slightly older, but not like that much older.
I perceived Violet as like a woman in her 40s, like early 40s.
Yeah, I forget how young they are when they start popping out babies.
And then I perceived Lady Danbury as like a woman in her 60s even. But I think she's younger than that.
I thought there was like 10 years between them, max. Because like she looks like the woman that portrays is it Adjoa? She's like, she's an incredible woman. She looks great for her age. I don't know her age, but like I thought she was closer in age to Violet than like, so seeing Violet this young in a show where we get young Lady Danbury, I was like, wow, okay, the age gap is quite different, especially knowing what we know later on. I was like, okay, this is a shock.
Yeah, Violet was like 15 or 16 in the show, and then Lady Danbury, Agatha, I think, was in her late 20s.
She's so much like Hyacinth.
Yeah,
in a way, like she like her younger self of just like being eager to learn everything and being super close to her dad here.
She was like, so cute with her dad.
Yeah, she's just like happy and bubbly. Like that just reminded me of Hyacinth a lot. Yeah. But anyways, we're introduced to her, and I was like, oh my god, are we gonna get introduced to Edmund as well? Like young Edmund, because I don't remember when they meet. I thought they were kids, but, well, not kids, but, like, you know, around the age that she's at. We don't meet Edmund.
We don't, but I did not know for the longest while. Like, I think it takes me a while to learn people's names in shows. I did not know who this family was, so I literally had them, oh, family of the ton, until I, like, it clicked. Oh my gosh, that's Violet!
Really?
I'm such a loser the way I watch shows. But yeah, no, I really didn't like hit me until like obviously we hear them talking about like, you know, the new introduction to the ton. We have like people of color coming in and we hear difference of opinions. Like the mom is very much against it and like does not like to be part of like a ton that's very diverse, whereas we have Lord Ledger who's very much like for it and like he's excited to see like, you know, what could happen. And like Violet is very much not echoing her father but more so just like being vocal about her own perspective and like all of that. But I didn't really know that it was Violet.
Wow. I don't know what to say.
It only kicked in with the hats, like the paper hat for the birthday, and I was like, because
Really?
the kid Violet was wearing the hat. I'm such a loser.
Was she wearing
I
a
don't know
hat?
why. No, like it was like so we got the flash forward with like Violet telling Lady Danbury about what her father and her used to do, and then we got
Oh, and then later on she's wearing a hat because it's her birthday. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay, wow.
Anyways,
that took you a
sorry
while
about that.
then.
We didn't talk about Lady Danbury. So basically, her and her old grandpa, get a title in the ton, and now they're Lord and Lady Danbury. But they only get
I was like,
that.
her old grandpa? You mean her husband?
sorry.
I was like, have I missed a whole thing about her having a grandpa somewhere?
She was promised to that man when she was 3 years old, which we'll get into.
3.
I know. I was like, what the hell is going on there? Anyway, so they get status in the ton. They get a nice house and all of that. But in exchange, she must provide Princess Augusta with information about Charlotte and George and her friendship with Charlotte.
Right. Which is a thing that is never revisited.
I mean, it is, but Charlotte never hears about it.
Yeah, in that one scene towards the end where Charlotte says, "You're my friend," and then Lady Danbury says, "We're not friends in this moment. I'm only your subject," and blah, blah, blah. And she was like that to me, I kind of interpreted that scene as her, without saying what she's been doing, kind of saying that she hasn't been a friend.
Yeah.
In all ways that matter, and so she wants to start a new type thing. That's kind of how I saw it, but I thought it was interesting that it didn't come up again because I was kind of expecting it to come up again between them.
Yeah, it never got revisited. Like, does present day Charlotte know that was happening?
Right.
Anyways, so back to the hate fucking. He doesn't know why she's so angry. And we're talking about George and Charlotte. He doesn't know why.
Do you want to know my note? In front of everyone's salad?
Yeah. Legit though, he's like
legitimately in front of everyone's salad on the table while everyone is looking at. I was like, is this like, are we gonna get some like voyeurism in this show? Because they weren't bothered if Brimsley hadn't said like everybody out.
They were trying so hard not to look, and then Brimsley's like, okay, and then we like cleared the room, and it was just.
But for real though, imagine being a servant in that time period to like a king and a queen, and like they just be fucking, and you have to like your job is to stand there and act as if it's not happening.
You know, they went and talked about that downstairs.
Right.
They're like, did you know? Did you? It was scandalous. You knew they talked about it.
Or even just like the jobs where it's like it was somebody's job to check the king's poop after he's pooed. You know what I mean? Just to make sure that it's like healthy and the king is not sick, like to smell it and shit. I'm like, these people were not paid enough. I mean,
not at all.
Obviously, but like obviously, like
only you would take it to actual shit.
But I mean, but for real, I mean, remember in Outlander, this is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I can't believe that people had to go through that and they literally weren't paid shit for it. Pun intended. Like, anyways, so they be fucking in front of everyone's salad on the dinner table.
Yeah, they be fucking everywhere. But anyways, Brimsley brings up that the king does not go to social events. And that he also spills the beans that he's seen a doctor. And Brimsley saw a doctor attend the king in like a cellar or something. Like it was obviously something which we knew from the end of episode 2 that it was something that needed to be hush hush. And the king George basically told Reynolds, like, do not tell Charlotte, like, this cannot happen. And Brimsley spilled the beans. And after sex, she kind of like slyly brings up like why he was seeing a doctor in the cellar, and he doesn't really answer, and he gets really defensive. But so now we kind of know there are obviously deeper things going on, which we already know. Like if you watch Bridgerton season 1 and 2, you know there's more going on. But like we said earlier, I didn't really know that it was happening already.
My next note is again about well, it's actually about the bath scene. Because I just wanted to say, my note says, excuse me, he grabbed her throat a little in the bath. I saw what I saw.
Dude.
He did.
He did. And literally she's trying to like frantically like undo her nightdress, and he's like, just get in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I loved it. He.
So I did appreciate that one moment. I did see some things.
Anyways, so now we're at the scene, like present day. It was Edmund's birthday, and
wait,
Violet
actually, before you bring that up, I have a point.
Okay, yeah.
Which is actually the follow up to the point that I brought up at the beginning about motherhood and women and blah blah blah. So Lady Danbury, we're actually told for the very first time, unless I have forgotten a very important moment at some point in the past 2 seasons of Bridgerton, but we are introduced for the first time to the fact that Lady Danbury has 4 kids.
4 kids! I know, I did not know that. I really thought she was childless.
Because in the book series, she has kids. In fact, one of her kids marries... it's not Hyacinth. Is it Hyacinth? But in Bridgerton, the series, the TV series.
Wait.
Yes.
Pause. Her child marries Hyacinth?
Yeah.
Isn't he like a grown, like older? Like how old is he?
I mean, there's probably an age gap, but like not more than 10 years. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I'm a little confused, but whatever. Anyways.
No, because but you were saying like Lady Danbury in the books are like she's like 90.
Well, I mean, I say she's like 90. I mean, she's probably not actually 90, but she acts like a fucking 90-year-old with like her cane, hitting everyone and being a grumpy old lady. You know, I'm guessing it's like her youngest son, probably like her youngest child and whatever. Anyways, all this to say, in the book series, she has kids. In the 2 seasons of Bridgerton thus far, I was under the impression that she was childless because she's never mentioned them at any point. And yet here, for the first time, we're told that not only is she not childless, she has 4 kids. And so my note was just about the fact that it kind of struck me here how not close to her kids she is. And there was something about, like, I can't remember quite what she says, but something about, like, oh, they're all overseas, and she was kind of, like, relieved about the fact that they're all, like, gone.
Not there.
Yeah, so...
And we know that she, like, is, like, the kids are being raised by a nanny, so they're very much not in her life.
I was just thinking, like, that's interesting, and I think kind of important to show that this is the kind of mother who pregnancy was forced on her, in the sense of like society forced her into motherhood. I don't know that she would have chosen motherhood for herself. She doesn't really strike me as the kind of woman that really wanted kids, but it's expected of her, it's her duty, and so she did it. But as a result of that, she's not close to her kids, and she's also not very motherly. Even in the scenes later on with her kid, her son, you don't feel the like quote unquote motherly love from her. And I just think that that's important because, you know, so often people are like, oh, it just comes naturally to women. And it's like, you'll have kids even though you don't want them, you'll have kids and then you'll fall in love with them and they'll be like the greatest thing you ever did and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that is not true. You know, some women genuinely do not or struggle a lot to form that bond with their kids, and for some of them it takes a while. And for some of them, you know,
And some of them never get it.
some of them have postpartum depression, and that really adds like a huge struggle and a huge strain on that bond, on creating that bond with their kid, and they find it hard. And so I just thought like, oh, that's really interesting that like we literally have never heard about her kids because she's really not that close to them, and most likely she didn't want them ever. She's, you know, she obviously tolerates them and supports them. You know, she has that like little speech with her son. She sees the value in them, but it's not in a motherly way, or at least not in the way that we're used to, or you know, not in a Violet Bridgerton kind of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, it's like a difference in mothering. Like we see different types of mothers all over in this show.
Yeah, especially the queen too.
And I think that just highlights just another way.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the scene where it's Edmund's birthday. Go ahead.
Yeah, so present day Bridgerton, Edmund's birthday, and Violet is sad. So she's at, I believe it's a church, and she's lighting a candle, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Edmund. And she shares a story of creating, like, wonderful birthday memories. And one of them was basically, she used to create birthday hats for him. Because he didn't, like, the way she talked about it, it didn't seem like he had a very good childhood. So he would always wear this hat, like, his whole birthday, and he would wear it, like, all day. And she revealed that her dad used to do that. And then Lady Danbury, she says something to Violet that really upsets her, that she was most fortunate. And that really insulted Violet in a way that, like, you know, kind of made her distance herself from Lady Danbury. Obviously, I think it was implied that she was most fortunate that she was loved and had been loved. And
I still say they should be doing a prequel again.
I agree.
The stories are there.
Oh, you mean like
the Rokesby or whatever the fuck their name is.
I just think Violet should get one, and I feel like, you know, it'll obviously show like her story with Edmund, but then also maybe her finding her way in present day as well. I think.
Do you think this was a setup?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so a setup for Violet. Yeah, I totally felt that way.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I totally felt like it was a setup.
Do you think she'll be finding love, like in the present timeline? Like, do you think she'll be finding love in the main series, in like in Bridgerton, or do you think if they were to do a spinoff about young Violet and Edmund, they would intermingle that with like present Violet finding love or something? Or do you think that that's never going to really be explored in the present day?
I think, okay, so this is what my thought is.
Yeah.
I think season 3, 4, maybe, I don't know, it might be her exploring her sexuality outside of like her marriage, basically. Like, you know, she's never been with Edmund, so maybe like she like has sex with whoever. Like, we're gonna see that as a plot. And then if Shonda Rhimes and Julia Quinn decides to give Violet a spin-off story, that would be about her finding love and seeing the different type of love that she can find after Edmund, because we'll see Edmund in flashbacks. That's what I'm seeing happen. We'll see.
Okay.
How do you feel about that, though?
Until 5 seconds ago, I didn't even think that this must be a setup or of any kind. Like, I just thought like they were giving us some Violet just for the sake of it, because like she'd be there, like she obviously exists in this world.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I would like it. I would enjoy it, because obviously it's a story that we've always wanted, because they have like this great romance that literally is the heart of our main series. Like none of that would have happened if it wasn't for this love story.
For them.
So, and we never got to see it because Julia Quinn refuses to write that story. So, like,
right, I remember you saying that Julia Quinn refuses to write it. But I think with getting the story that's so bittersweet, like maybe she's like more like leaning towards writing maybe Violet and Edmund's story now that she's written something that wasn't happy.
Well, they could, because now I know that they could be doing the same thing where, you know, they could end it in a happy ending type way where that's not gonna last. But
we've already seen the death, so I don't even think that'll be touched upon again if they do a spin-off.
exactly. So they could just be sailing off into the sunset and
Exactly. And then I guess it'll be like, we'll see the two different romances with whoever Violet decides to. If she doesn't, maybe she decides to just like continue having like fun and like enjoying life as a single woman. Like,
but it'd be fun also to see an older woman getting a romance for once.
No, and I think the show really highlighted for me as a viewer that Violet wasn't two-dimensional. I think this really showed me that she is like a woman first. Like, yeah, she's a mother, but I think watching Bridgerton season 1 and 2, she's like been relegated as like this big mother figure. But like now I think the show really highlighted that she is a woman and she has her own story and she has her own struggles. Like, I think it'd be worthwhile to see more of her and as a woman first.
But also, I think how long has it been? Like 10 years or so since the death of Edmund? Right?
Anthony was 18, right?
He was 19 or 18, and now he's like 28 or 29, right?
Okay.
I think anyway. So I also think it is the time for her to have that story, because I think for a long time she was holding on to that grief, but also sort of fully investing herself in the lives of her kids. And now that we've had 2 seasons and 2 of her kids are off and married and happy, I think now is the time where like she's seeing her kids married off and happy and like realizing that maybe something is missing in her own life. And I like that thought. But I also think like she's kind of realizing that like slowly but surely all her kids will be married and she'll be left. And so I like that she's sort of now starting to think like, well, I am a woman, I'm not just the mother, I am a woman
who has desires. And I love that they like, I know like the whole garden and bloom thing was really funny, but like
so cringe.
I think like the whole like what it emphasized that she like is a woman, like she's been like without sex for how many years, and like
but she didn't want it, right? Like she didn't want it. I think seeing her kids being happy is what made her realize that maybe she's missing something.
But then she also talked about her garden with Edmund and how it was very different blooms everywhere. So I think it was just like she had a very good sex life.
Edmund had the greenest of thumbs.
I love the metaphors, the creative metaphor that historical romance authors find.
But it's great. Especially Violet. Remember in season 1 when she had that whole thing about the dog? When she was explaining to Daphne, like, sex, and that led to a lot of drama. Anyway, this woman cannot, like, if someone was to like holding a gun to her head and her life was on the line, I still think she wouldn't be able to say the words.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, back to the church scene.
Right. Anyways, so like we said, Violet leaves very angrily because of the comment that she was most fortunate from Lady Danbury.
What did you think of that whole scene?
Oh no, I thought it was really important, and I was like, I like that she was sharing like a little moment or a little snippet into her and Edmund's life with the flower crowns, or no, sorry, the paper crowns. And when she said that she was most fortunate, or touched upon it earlier, obviously it implied that she was fortunate because she was loved and knew what love was. Well, and that she had it.
We know that.
Yeah.
At that point, Violet doesn't know that. So like it comes off very rude. Like this is literally her husband's like birthday, the husband who died, who she loved, and you're being like, oh, you're so fortunate to be missing him,
Yeah.
But right. Yeah.
How did you feel about it? Like you.
Well, what I just said, like, I kind of had an idea of what might have informed Lady Danbury's emotions in that scene and why she would have said what she said. I mean, I do think, I don't know, like, I understand the whole comment of, like, you're fortunate. I do think there's a time and a place, and I think perhaps it was not the right time on that specific day.
Agreed, but I think we just came off of seeing her and her old grandpa.
You need
But
to
also
stop calling him that because it just feels weird.
okay, fine. But like and then also we've seen her tell Kate in season 2 that she's loved and she's lost. So like
Right.
that she's been through something. So you know that she does think Violet is most fortunate, because she's had that love for longer than she has,
Oh, is that how you saw it?
That's how I perceived it, yeah.
Oh. I was fully just thinking of her own husband, of just being like, you're fortunate that on his birthday what you're thinking about is love, and the emotions
Right.
that you have and are feeling are because you loved him, whereas on his on Lady Danbury's or Lord Danbury's birthday, what Lady Danbury would be feeling is not love.
Yeah, okay. No, yeah, I see that actually, and I think that relates better to the situation. Because I think it cuts to later on that she tells her why she was actually at the church, Lady Danbury. But anyways, it cuts to young Violet, which is when I realized that was Violet when she has the paper crown on her head. Anyways, so then we see Charlotte. She's very much confused as to what George does with his day. She does not know what he does. He does not want to go to balls, parties, nothing.
Yeah.
And he tells her he farms. So she
This
goes
man.
to check
Yeah.
his farming.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying she goes to check his farming. But
Well,
yeah, anyways.
because first she sees him walking around the gardens, chest butt naked, with his sexy little tight pants and his leather boots.
A little happy trail.
Yeah. And he's just walking out in the sunshine, and I was like, that is a sight. She's like, what is he doing?
She's like, that's a sight too. But she's just so confused. She like does not buy that he's farming.
He's farming. But I loved how when she sees him walking around like that, her face is literally squished in the window, and I was like, Sam.
Honestly though, same.
Sam.
Like, girl, that's her husband.
That
On
is,
even days.
I was like, I right then and there would have gone to find my husband, and I would have, even days or not.
Same.
You know where that's going. Anyways, he does farm, and she won't believe that. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, she won't believe it, and like she is trying to figure out what he's doing because obviously she's like, he's not farming. A king is not farming. But anyways, we get to also see what's going on with Parliament, and they're in an uproar because of all the like people of color in society, and like what is their place in society. And then we have Lady Danbury that really wants to host the first ball because she thinks that'll cement their position in this very white society. And she's worried that the white people won't attend this ball because of she like just is a newly found lady, and her husband, not old grandfather, is a new lord. So she goes to the queen and tries to get her to not endorse her, but more so like support her and like show her support for Lady Danbury's ball. And what does she tell Charlotte at that point? Because Charlotte's like literally nose pressed to the glass, trying to figure out what's going on with her husband. And Lady Danbury is like talking about her problem as if like, she's talking to a friend.
I don't remember what she said.
No, so basically she just tells Charlotte that she's focusing on like not the wrong things, but she's focusing on things that like, seem small in the grand scheme of things. Like she has this position in a society that she can cause serious change, and she has the power to make that change. And her life, she also said her life would be a lot different if she wasn't a queen. So like that kind of puts Charlotte's situation in perspective to Lady Danbury's, and she's not finally, but she sees all the pieces in motion, and she like uses her position finally to do something worthwhile.
And then this episode ends with Charlotte finally seeing, so They have their even days sex. And then she wakes up in the middle of the night and you just hear like scratching on the walls, which like that alone, I was like, that is a horror movie if I've ever seen
Nightmare
one.
fuel.
Yes. That is scary as shit. But anyways, she's a brave woman. So she gets up and she checks out what the hell is the sound, and she's calling his name and he's not responding. And anyway, she finds him like frantically scribbling on the walls about like moons and planets and astrology things. And she's calling his name and he's like not really responsive, and he kind of like just walks away as if like she's not even there, and he's not really registering her presence or who she is. And he walks out into the garden and he takes his shift off. He's just like butt naked, literally, in the moonlight, and he's calling on to Venus, and he's like, Venus, say hi to Venus, blah blah. He's obviously in a world of his own, and that's the first time, because she follows him, and that's the first time that she kind of is confronted with what's been going on with him. And she's shocked, to say the least, by seeing her husband like that.
And this all happens after they decide no more even days, right? Like they've decided that they will be together even on odd days. And like she talks about to him the pressure he must feel and the pressure that he's under, and how caged he must feel. So like she kept emphasizing certain words, and then we finally see like what's like, not, we don't even know what's going on at this point. We just know that things weren't as it, like it wasn't as it seemed. And she's also like hella confused because of what she is presented with. And like you said, the episode ends there, which our episode will also end here.
I did like that she was like, I'm Venus, like I'm right here, I'm Venus, and then like that calms him down, because he's like frantically searching for Venus. And so she kind of like distracts him and kind of brings him back, or his attention back onto her, by saying like, I'm Venus, I'm here, I'm with you, you have me. So I liked that little detail.
Oh no, I liked it too. And I liked that the conversation prior to this, I guess, episode of his, it was more so like prefacing what was to come, you know, like the feeling of being caged, the feeling of like this immense pressure on this one person. We kind of see and hear, I guess, her not understanding of it, because it takes a while for her to actually empathize and understand what's going on. But I think it's more so for us to like kind of put us into like his situation as we see in.
But also understand that like back then they had no understanding of like any
mental
sort of
health.
mental health or disease or disorders or whatever. Like they had no. So like you understand why like she'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. And I also so we didn't really talk about Reynolds, but he's kind of been like the king's support system and throughout it all. Like he's the one that's
protector.
His protector, because at this point we have Brimsley constantly going to see him, and he's like, so what's going on? You need to tell me what's going on, because I don't know. And he's constantly like keeping things away from Brimsley, and despite, you know, them not in, I don't even know if they're in a relationship, but they have something going on between them.
A situationship.
Yeah. But it's just like he has been that one person for George, you know, and I liked at that point that he was there, but he was not able to calm him down. It was Charlotte that calmed him down, or Venus in the situation. How did you feel about the way that it unfolded? You know, like not seeing any sort of cracks in his armor until, I guess, when he had that, it was almost like a panic attack in episode 2, right? The end of episode 2 was more like a panic attack, where I thought it was a panic attack. And then this is like the first time that we've seen him completely unravel.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that there were no cracks, because like I said, from episode 1, you can tell that there's something going on, and that his grip on himself is shifty at best. So I think you see it coming. It's there. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, I liked how they did it, I guess, would be, like, I don't really have an opinion, so I guess that probably means I'm okay with the way that they did it.
Okay. No, I think they did a really good job. I was really invested in the story, and, like, I felt, not my heart drop, but I felt like, I just felt so, like, sad, because, like, you kind of, like, you know it's coming. Like, we've watched Bridgerton, we've seen season 1 and 2, like, you know what the outcome is, and, you know, the story gets, like, it gets serious.
Yeah, also props to the actor. I don't know his name, but props
Corey
to him,
Milcrest.
because it must be Corey? Is it Corey?
Corey Milcrest?
Milcrest. Because it must be hard to portray this kind of character without, like, in a way that is respectful and also,
Exactly. There are so many different ways to portray King George III, and I think we've seen many portrayals where it's more like comedic relief, and in this instance it's very much like it's clearly more nuanced than, you know, what is perceived in the history books. And I really liked the way that he acted it and the way that he portrayed, and, like, you can tell, like, it was just handled with care in this show.
Because it'd be easy to infantilize him too.
True.
But especially in those moments. But
and even for Charlotte to even treat him with, like, kid gloves too. And the way that they went about it was, I really liked how they went about everything in this show. But anyways, we'll talk about that on part 2.
Yes. So this is the end of part 1. So episodes 1 to 3, and so next part will obviously be 4 to 6. Somehow we've made it 2 hours.
I don't even know, but I had one more question for you.
I have ceased to try and understand just how long we can talk about things, because
I think we can talk. I can continue on. I had one more question for you.
Oh, okay. Go on.
No, my question was, so where did you stop? Because I know you said you watched some of it and then you finished it today.
Yeah.
So where did you stop?
I got to watch 2 episodes on
Okay.
Thursday night, and then I was away the whole weekend, and so I watched the last 4 today.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Obviously, if you're listening to this, I'm hoping that means you watched it, and at the very least, hopefully enjoyed it. So as always, if there's something you want to add to our conversation, something we didn't tackle that you wanted to hear our opinions on, or you want to add something to it, feel free
or
to.
Or if you have any, like, do you feel a type of way of Violet maybe getting a show?
Right, yeah. Feel free to reach us online. Our email is romancingthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com. That's the best place if you have a little bit more to say, but of course you always you can always reach us on Instagram as well. That's Romancing the Monsters Podcast.
Our Instagram, yes.
No, yes. And our Twitter is the RTM Pod. TikTok is Romancing the Monsters Pod, I believe, and YouTube, best place to reach us with, like, a random comment. If it's like a short comment or whatnot, that's the best, easiest way for us to respond. And if you're looking for me, I am on both Twitter and Instagram at Foes and Lovers.
And you can find me, Seff, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes. And also, I keep forgetting to mention, we have a Coffee
oh my god, yeah, we
account.
Do. Which,
to be quite honest, I don't even remember what it is, but I believe it's Romancing the Monsters. So yeah, if you like us or
to support us,
to support in any way,
yeah,
please feel free. And also, if not monetary, money-wise, literally my brain's fried. Just leaving us a review on our podcast, or even just liking
Apple Podcasts,
subscribing,
or is it Apple Podcasts?
Yeah, you can leave reviews and, like,
Spotify, like, apparently, but I've never seen them, but like apparently you can leave reviews on Spotify, so like feel free to do, or maybe it's just a rating, feel free to do that too. It's actually really helpful. Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, see you on the next
see
episode.
you soon. We'll be recording part 2 tomorrow, so hopefully part 2 should be released fairly close together with this part, so you shouldn't have to wait too long.
Right.
Hope to see you then. In the meantime, see ya. Have a great week. And yeah. Bye.
Bye.